Hey friends, you're watching BrainStormAcres. I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
We live in northern Arizona, about 1 mile above sea level in the high desert. So we have a lot of desert conditions in the summertime, and we do get weather.
We live on 43 acres. We're completely off-grid. We have our own electric and water and all those things that you need to live comfortably, because although we live off-grid, we are not primitive.
Well, I don't know.
Well, we may be primitive in other ways, but in terms of our living conditions, we are not primitive.
Yeah, we have friends in southern Arizona who also live at a similar altitude, and they're handling things slightly different, but they have the same kind of winter temperatures that we do, at least below freezing. Now, we started running our heat tape, what, 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
Irene?
about 3 weeks ago, I plugged in the heat tape. We have heat tape where the water comes into the house, where the water comes out of the water tanks at the top of the hill, and I have one more that I need to put a extension cord on that goes to the rain collection system on the south side of the house.
Now, today's show is going to be a little bit different because we're forecast to have high winds starting around noon, which is not too long from now, and the wind's been picking up, and we might get snow tonight.
Right. There is a big storm we've been watching for a week at least. There's a big storm coming down out of the Pacific Northwest. But then the question is always how far south it will swoop, and whether, a lot of times the storms stop in Nevada somewhere. And they don't come, or Utah, they don't come all the way down here. So yeah, it's going to come all the way down. They're expecting it to be moderately cold even down in Phoenix. And by Thursday, it's going to have gone way down, probably as far as the Mexican border. So everybody down there is going to have to deal too. And, you know, broken pipes are not our idea of a good time. But up here, we have to also deal with the same issues that we would have had to deal with when we lived in New England. If you have a storm that comes early, a lot of times people get very casual and they're like, oh, I'm not going to bother to clean things off and stuff like that.
Clean it all up. I'm talking about all of the snow off of every surface, because
I remember this happening. Somebody made fun of me because it was like a Halloween sort of a storm. Oh, you don't need to clean that off, it's going to melt. Well, you know what? That ice was there
until May.
Until May. And I had my section cleaned off, so I had no ice until much later in the year, when you simply had to give up and have ice. But it made a huge difference not to have a baseline of ice under things. So you'll see a lot of times we accomplish two things. Number one, we do keep the area clear so there's no slip fall problems, or at least it minimizes them. We have an older dog who slips around sometimes. We don't need him hurting himself. We're older. Even the cat slips sometimes. So
I'm not older.
Right. Anyway, just keep telling yourself that. Anyway, the basic premise is that we do watch out for the slip fall issues, but we also take the opportunity to remove what is effectively free water and put it onto the flower beds. So if you watch us through the winter, you'll see me frequently shovel the entire front patio area and put all that snow onto the flower beds.
Yeah, so I'll do the same thing for the paths and so on. A little bit of snow goes a long way when it starts melting.
Right, because it's melting slowly, it's sinking in, it's not rolling off. So it's just free rain as far as we're concerned. Just comes down a little whiter than usual. The areas out in here right now are very messy because we're way behind on our yard clearing for the fall. But we're going to at least make sure that there's no tools in the paths and stuff like that, because it becomes a real danger when you can't see them and then you're trying to shovel or you're trying to walk in the snow and you trip over stuff.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot of things. There's been a lot of interruptions, a lot of things that were unexpected.
Right.
Yeah, but weather doesn't always need to be unexpected. One of the things that Irene does every single day, and on a pretty frequent basis, she watches the weather that's coming up from the Gulf of Mexico and coming down from the Pacific Northwest, because a lot of times we can anticipate a big storm before it happens.
Some of the worst storms we've ever gotten is when Baja California, or Baja Mexico, gets hit by the remnants of a hurricane, and it rolls in across and smacks Arizona, and they frequently don't forecast it until like 24 hours before it hits us. Well, we live out. We live quite a distance out. So we need to make sure that we've got enough fuel for generators just in case it's pitch black out here, because we have such heavy cloud cover. We need to make sure we've got all the food and things we need in case the road is impassable. So it's planning ahead. It's just a safety factor.
Now, there's one thing that is really important to remember, is there is no such thing as usual weather in the way things are being unsettled now. 17 years ago, we could reasonably anticipate usual weather, but at least in the past 5 or 6 years, it's really been changing. So when you hear somebody say, we never get cold this early, or we never get hot this early, that's only in most cases because they're new to the environment.
Right.
Whether it's here in Arizona, southern Arizona, or
Timbuktu, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. So you could be in the upper peninsula of Michigan, out in the hinterlands.
They got smacked the other day. And then even for them, that was early. I mean, they've had some Fort Wayne, Michigan, and some of those other places up there have had snow earlier than they've ever seen it. So no matter where you live, you need to pay attention.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Now, the way we're going to be doing things today is a little bit different. I think we're going to set up a time warp camera so that you can see what's going on. We're probably not going to do a lot of talking. I'm going to be going up the hill, cutting up a hose that needs to be taken to the dump. I plan to roll it up and take it to the dump, but I'm just going to go ahead and cut it up. I think it's probably too stiff now. I waited. I should have gotten it done yesterday. I didn't get it done, so now I'm going to pay the penalty by having to cut it up. In the meantime, Irene's going to go looking for things around the paths, I think, and make sure that we have clear access, clear walking, clear shoveling, so that we know what's going on. One of the things I'll be doing later today is I'm going to get a flat-bladed shovel. We don't have one right now that's any good, and I'll be removing some of the dirt that's been kicked up by the gophers in our front yard.
Yeah, we have on the patio area here, there are cracks between the pavers, and which is just flagstone, and they have pushed up big piles of dirt between the pavers, so it's a mess. You have to be careful when you walk through. That'll make it hard to shovel.
Yeah,
So
I may be doing this after dark tonight, but you have to do what you have to do.
And that's what we're doing here right today is we're doing the priority thing. You know, it's a priority that the pathways are clear so that if we do have to shovel now or a month from now, we don't have to worry about it. There'll be plants that I'm going to leave in place today that are in the pathway that are self-seeded. I'm going to leave them. I'll work around them as long as I can. At some point during the winter, they may just croak, and then we'll take them out.
Well, let's get at it.
Yes. Off. Doo-doo.
Now, I've been using this extension cord to do a little work over by the box truck, and I'm going to go ahead and plug the heat tape back in. Now, we have a special kind of extension cord that has an end which has multiple outlets on it. This is the entrance to our house for the water. It has heat tape on it and has insulation wrapped around it. This other hose is for the propane. Propane is routed underground from our underground tank over there. That doesn't need to be insulated, and it doesn't need to be heated. Now, I had disconnected this hose from the greenhouse a few days ago, and I didn't get it rolled up. And one that really matters is the one that's really tightly attached here. I'm going to just cut this old hose off. I cut a section out of the hose so I can show you later what's going on with the hoses that I'm going to be taking to the dump. Wind's starting to kick up. It's probably 2 hours early, which means we'll probably be getting the stronger winds 2 hours earlier, and we may get rain or snow 2 hours earlier. Maybe. You can never exactly tell, but we know generally what's going to happen, or what should happen, or at least what's forecast to happen. Doesn't mean that's going to be what actually does happen.